From its earliest days, great players have illuminated the FIFA Confederations Cup.
Sou Ronaldinho, Brasil.
Michael Laudrup, Denmark.
8 tournaments have passed.
Harry Kewell, Australia.
سامي الجابر، المملكة العربية السعودية.
8 champions have been crowned.
Robert Pires, France.
Ronaldo, Brasil.
It's a picture of triumph.
Michael Ballack, Deutschland.
Rafael Márquez, México.
Marked by joy and despair.
Luis Carlos Camini, Cameroon.
Vladimír Šmicer, Česká republika.
This is its story.
John Harkes, USA.
Steven Pienaar, South Africa.
The story of the FIFA Confederations Cup.
It is really a competition of the champions of the continents and has, I would say, a very important value in the international calendar.
(1992) Saudi Arabia.
The Confederations Cup begins in my homeland.
In 1992, Saudi Arabia invited the champions of 3 continents to Riyadh for the King Fahd Cup, the inaugural intercontinental championship.
Thanks to this tournament, Saudi Arabia started to become known in world football. People began to hear about us through this intercontinental competition, with Argentina and the USA taking part, and Côte d'Ivoire representing the African continent in a big way. And in the first game, I think we were the big surprise of the tournament.
The opening match between Saudi Arabia and the USA was effectively a semi-final.
The stadium was unbelievable, from the locker room to the pitch to the scenery. But the strangest thing started occurring, and it kept us all, we froze. It got us out of our warm-up. We literally froze, we stood there, and we looked at the crowd, and the crowd literally in sync had stepped up, sat down. And we're just like, what is going on? This is weird. Until we looked over to the press box and we noticed this big throne type room sitting in the middle of center line, which was the Kings. He would get up and look, what's the goalie doing? Sit down. All right, what's interesting me? And he almost thought he was playing a game with his people.
In that opening game, Saudi Arabia dominated an inexperienced American team, with Tony Meola required to make a string of stops.
Brilliant save!
We were a bit shocked. We were surprised, I think, not just by the pace of the team itself, especially in the transition, how good they were a counter-attacking team, but the skill level. And we found it hard. There were times where we were chasing the game, you know, and trying to get organized and close it down.
The tournament's first goal came after Sami Al Jabba was brought down in the penalty area.
Penalty! Sami foul by Tony Meola.
Tony Meola was one of those keepers who's renowned for their seriousness. So he came to me and said, this was play acting, it was not fair. I was a little bit apprehensive of this big guy. Of course I rejected it. And the proof that I was injured was that I had to go off the pitch.
With Al Jabba choosing to receive treatment, Fahad al-Bashi took the penalty. There was no debate about Saudi Arabia's second goal from Yusuf Al-Tunayan. The home team had demonstrated their ability in convincing style, Khaled Al-Muwalid completing a 3-0 victory.
Khaled! The USA are not being beaten, they're being taken apart by Saudi Arabia. And who would have believed this scoreline?
It was a surprise to us that they were so good. They were well organized, and played good tactical soccer. They didn't need many opportunities, but they capitalized on them. And it was very surprising to see a country like that play that quality of soccer at the time.
The Saudis would face Argentina in the final. A classy Argentinian side with players like Diego Simeone, Claudio Caniggia, Gabriel Batistuta and Sergio Goycochea had proved far too strong for Côte d'Ivoire.
I would often stand in goal and watch them. It was such a pleasure to watch that team play. Our attacking play was so smooth, we defended well. It felt like if anyone was going to beat us, they had to play much, much better than us.
Argentina were also a class above their hosts in the final. Simeone set up Leonardo Rodriguez for a superb early opener.
And that's the first goal of the game. Leo Rodriguez makes it 1-0 to Argentina.
Before half-time, Caniggia was also on target.
Caniggia is onside, and he's made it 2!
And Simeone also scored as it finished 3-1.
Simeone makes it 3. Argentina are the first intercontinental champions.
When you win, you have to give it the credit it deserves. So we celebrated. It was an official tournament. Okay, maybe only just set up, but so what? We played the best teams from their own continent, and we won.
(1995) Saudi Arabia.
Denmark wins the title.
The Laudrup brothers spearheaded European champions Denmark when the tournament returned to Riyadh in 1995.
It was kind of a unique tournament in 1995. In the first place, we played in January, which is different from a European Championship or World Cup at the end of the season. And in my case, I couldn't take part in the first match, as I had to play for Real Madrid in the Clásico against Barcelona, when we won 5-0 at the Bernabeu.
Brian ensured his brother's absence did not affect the result of Denmark's opening match against their hosts.
Oh, it's a super goal by Brian Laudrup!
It was a very important goal. The Saudi team set out to play very defensively, and it's always important to have a great start.
I close my eyes and remember that goal perfectly. I can picture just how Brian Laudrup used to play. Dribbling the ball on his own, he was like a magician. He was so comfortable on the ball.
I'd played with several members of the other teams in Riyadh, for example with Gabriel Batistuta at Fiorentina. So the way in which we all shared one hotel was a unique experience. Normally, every international team has its own hotel, but the result was that you had a lot of conversations with other players.
There were now 6 teams taking part, split into 2 groups. Argentina were back as Copa America champions and again looking impressive. Their coach, Daniel Passarella.
What struck me most about the whole experience was the stadium. The fittings in the public washrooms were completely made of gold. And when we went to watch the other teams play, they put me up on the balcony with the sheikh. I remember that down by his foot, the sheikh had something like the accelerator pedal on a car. And when the home team were playing well and the crowd were applauding and going crazy, he would push on this lever, and suddenly, there he was, appearing on the big screen in the stadium. Incredible. It was wonderful.
Argentina began with a comprehensive 5-1 demolition of Asian champions Japan.
What a lovely goal, and Ariel Ortega deserves it.
We really experienced at first hand the strength of a top international team. At the time, I felt their speed, power and skills were a class above our own, and that Japan were a huge distance away from them.
A 0-0 draw with Nigeria then ensured Argentina their place in the final. There they would face the winners of Mexico against Denmark. For the Danes, the group decider began badly as goalkeeper Lars Ho suffered a concussion and was forced off.
It was a tournament Peter Schmeichel missed due to injury. I'd been playing for Denmark for many years, but was on the bench for Schmeichel for a total of 54 matches. Now, destiny had it in for me that Lars Ho had also joined the squad and was chosen to start in goal in Saudi Arabia. But during that match against Mexico, he suffered that concussion, and then I was thrown to the lions.
Morgan's Screw has come off his line, and Mexico have the lead.
So Morgans comes on and is anything but lucky to start with against Mexico.
But Krogh would get a chance to redeem himself.
Peter Rasmussen equalised late in the match, meaning we went to a penalty shootout. I saved the crucial penalty, and so instead of being the bad boy and the one not performing, I became the man of the match.
In the final against Argentina, Denmark was surprisingly dominant after winning an early penalty.
We were building a good team, but Denmark already had a great side, with the Laudrup brothers at its heart. Michael scored the first goal, and we lost the final 2-0.
During the second half, when we were coming under pressure, we made a counter-attack. I took the chance to go on a run and pass to Peter Rasmussen, who scored the decisive goal. It was great teamwork.
To win a trophy playing for your country and alongside your brother, that doesn't happen very often.
It was quite unique. In 1992, when Denmark became European champions, my brother was not involved. So it was a special feeling to stand there together with the trophy, as a family.
(1997) in Saudi Arabia.
Brazil at their best.
In 1997, the tournament was again held in Riyadh, but this time as the first official FIFA Confederations Cup, with 8 teams taking part.
For all new competitions in FIFA, there was always a big debate. And a debate in the executive committee of FIFA by saying we should not have more competitions. But then finally, when it comes to the identification that is a Confederations Cup, and then all confederations can participate, and then if it is well organized and later on organized in connection with the World Cup, then there is also a financial aspect, which we cannot deny, that everybody finally was happy.
Brazil took part for the first time, facing Saudi Arabia in the opening match.
We showed great unity as a team when we were there, with all the players getting their heads shaved together. I have really good memories of that tournament. It was a great experience to play in Saudi Arabia, even with the heat that we experienced at that time.
We were playing against Cafu, Roberto Carlos, Cesar Sampaio, Romario, Ronaldo. When Ronaldo touches the ball, he represents a team on his own. And Romario, when he touches the ball, he's a team on his own. They were strong in attack. They were strong on the flanks. They were even strong in defense. In my opinion, that was a perfect team. At the time, Brazil was the dream team.
With Romario, Ronaldo, Rivaldo and Denilson bewitching opposing defenders, the goals flowed as Brazil topped their group. Only Australia resisted with a surprise 0-0 draw, meaning they also qualified for the semis.
The funny thing about the Confederations Cup was in the hotel all the teams were together. So when you did beat someone, or you did draw with someone, or you did lose them, you'd still see them floating around the hotel. So to draw against Brazil, we were feeling quite proud of ourselves at the time, and you know, strutting around with the likes of Ronaldo, Romario, Roberto Carlos, Denilson, Dunga, all of them were there. We were feeling good about ourselves.
The Czech Republic were also making their competition debut and required a big win over the UAE to make the semi-finals. A Pavel Nedved special and a hat-trick from Vladimir Šmicer ensured just that.
It's fantastic when you score a goal like that. As soon as you hit the ball, well, you just know that it has to end up in the back of the net. The ball went straight into the top corner. It was one of the best goals I ever scored for the national team.
The Czechs would face Brazil in one semi-final. Australia beat Uruguay in the other with a golden goal in extra time.
Who is going to be the hero? Can it be Kewell? He's gone on to hit the shot, and Harry Kewell takes Australia into the final.
I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to celebrate. The emotions just kind of took over. I just thought, I can't believe that's just gone in. And then we just kind of just relaxed and enjoyed that we were in the final.
Brazil were favourites in the second semi, but the Czechs had a cunning plan. While sharing hotels with the Brazilians, their massage therapist had given a free session to Ronaldo.
We told him to go back one more time. We knew that we'd be playing Brazil in the semi-final. We egged him on to offer Ronaldo another massage, which would make him collapse after 15 minutes play. Obviously, we were only joking.
Unfortunately for the Czechs, Ronaldo was on top form.
There were great players in the Czech Republic side, who played for the best clubs in Europe. The match was difficult, but we had prepared well for it. Perhaps that was the toughest game of the tournament.
After a scoreless draw in their group, Australia believed they could upset Brazil in the final.
One of our gear stewardess was South American, and I remember him telling me that he got in the elevator and Carlos and Ronaldo in there, and I don't remember the third player. He just said to him, you know, Nilo, big final, we'll do yous and all that. And all of them just shook their head and said, no, yous won't. No, yous won't. First 12, 15 minutes, the Duca got sent off and they just ran the show. Carlos was hitting them balls from 40 yards out with free kicks. You know, I remember being in the wall and thinking, oh my God, this guy's just lashing them from 40 yards, and Mark Bosnich is shouting at me saying, stay in the wall. I'm thinking, you come and stand in the wall, I'll go and goal. Then you got Denilson, who was throwing out scissor kicks and cutting the ball, you know, 12 times. He was fooling everyone. Then you had Romario, one of the greatest goal scorers in the world, playing, and Ronaldo, and I think they both scored a hat-trick.
It was great to play with Romario, because he really is a very intelligent player, with fantastic positioning and excellent movement. And of course he is a genius when it comes to finishing off moves. So for me, it was a wonderful experience. I really enjoyed playing alongside him. We had perfect synchronicity, and it was fantastic.
That is some sensational goal, and what a hat-trick to score in the final.
Brazil are a team that are full of samba. They danced around that park that night. They waited to put on a show, and they put it on in the final.
Hat-tricks for both Romario and Ronaldo in a 6-0 triumph. Brazil had won on debut, the first team to be simultaneously World, Continental and Confederations Cup champions.
(1999) in Mexico.
Fiesta at the Azteca. All Mexicans are very passionate when it comes to football. When we had the opportunity to hold the Confederations Cup, it was like everyone was remembering 1986, when we hosted the World Cup. There was a lot of love and support for the players, and we lived it with a lot of intensity.
That intensity was missing for Germany. The European champions took a weakened squad to Mexico and suffered an opening 4-0 defeat to Brazil.
It's always special to play there, but for me as a young player to face one of the best teams in the world and then to suffer a 4-0 defeat, there was a lot of criticism, even if we didn't arrive with the strongest side.
If Germany were as poor as they have been at a major tournament, a teenaged Brazilian was making a better impression.
Oh, maybe the player who surprised me the most was Ronaldinho. He was already aiming to be the best. He was a future Brazilian star in the making. And he didn't just surprise me, he caught everybody's attention.
Germany's tournament ended with a humiliating 2-0 defeat to the USA.
We're honest enough to admit that maybe we were not good enough in those years. There were not enough good players on the team. That was the reason we were eliminated.
The Americans were through to a semi-final against their continental rivals in the Azteca, an intimidating prospect.
It's a cauldron of just anger and this thickness of the pollution and the altitude and everything about it, and this white noise that you can't hear yourself speak when you come out of the tunnel. It's just, you can't imagine, what it's like until you're in it.
Casey Keller put in a fantastic performance. He's a great goalkeeper and showed it that day. After we had so many chances, it really did seem as if the ball was never going to go in the goal.
Just when you think he can't get to this certain play or fingertip save or he tips it over the bar, he kept us in it. So yeah, his performance was great.
But in extra time, Cuauhtemoc Blanco was the hero for the home team.
Oh, it's come off, it must be! Blanco! That's the goal! That's the win! Mexico are in the final!
In the other semi-final, Brazil were utterly dominant against Saudi Arabia, despite appalling conditions. Ronaldinho led the way.
I have wonderful memories. I remember the goals. I remember practically the whole match. The grass was very wet. There was a lot of rain. It was a special game, because I helped my country get to a final. And I was very young, so that tournament was very important to me.
A hat-trick for Ronaldinho and a record 8-2 victory as Brazil headed for their second successive final to face the hosts.
I remember all the support that Mexico had in that final. All the fans were on their side. I remember very well the power of their performance, because the support of the fans does make a huge difference.
It was a wonderful match. Mexico started in superb style.
Great chance here, Zepeda, and Dinas fluffed it into the net, and Mexico are in front with Miguel Zepeda's goal.
And the home team quickly doubled their advantage.
Mexico, Mexico, Mexico! They are chanting around the Azteca.
Brazil replied and then levelled a classic soon after half-time.
Away goes Ronaldinho, squares it in, might be a second for Brazil.
But Mexico struck back and Marquez then freed Blanco for his 6th goal of the tournament as the hosts won 4-3.
It's Blanco, it's still Blanco, it's Blanco! It's 4!
When the team wins, when the team beats a difficult opponent, when you achieve as important a trophy as the Confederations Cup, those are unforgettable memories. Our fans celebrating and enjoying Mexico's victory, memories that I will always treasure.
2001, Japan and South Korea.
France sweeps the board.
In 2001, the tournament was used for the first time as a warm-up for the following year's FIFA World Cup. Preparations in Japan and South Korea were thorough, although nothing could prepare the South Koreans for France at their best in the opening match.
We were very professional and did everything we could to win the tournament, because we were on a good run at the time, after our victories in 1998 and then 2000. So the Confederations Cup was taken in the same spirit. That's to say, if we were going to win it.
Perez was the player of the tournament, producing some moments of magic for the world champions as they qualified for the semi-finals.
Robert Perez goes for a third goal and scores.
But it wasn't plain sailing for France. Heroics by Mark Schwarzer, the keeper of the tournament, helped Australia upset them 1-0 in the group stage to claim a place in the semis themselves.
It was only the fourth game they'd lost in 4 years. So also that was some feat as well. And I think it was one of those ones where they rested a few players. They started a very formidable side out, and we knew we had nothing to lose.
In Group B, Brazil was struggling. An understrength squad only managed scoreless draws with both Japan and Canada.
Already at that time, it has been the realization of the world of football was that there was no more weak national team. And therefore it was not a big surprise for me, but it was a big surprise especially for the Brazilians with their, I would say, not so very strong performance.
Brazil still edged into the semi-finals to face France, while co-host Japan topped their group.
There had never before been an opportunity to play against such incredible opponents under competition conditions in our own country. The crowds were fired up, and I think we were also charged by that, and were even more motivated than usual.
Nakata was man of the match in the semi-final against Australia, a game played in a monsoon.
It was horrendous, and you know the raindrops. I don't know if I'd call them raindrops anymore, because I don't think they were raindrops. They were just basically lines of water coming down from the sky, and you know it was a very, very tough game, and a game that we had enough chances to win the game, and we felt harshly done by losing the game 1-0.
It's Nakata, and it's in.
I had to adapt to the rainy conditions and shoot on a low level, even if it meant hitting someone, to use the slippery pitch. That worked well, and it ended up being the only goal of the match.
Perez and captain Marcel Desailly scored for France as they won their semi-final against Brazil.
And the French have done it again, thanks to Marcel Desailly.
France were clear favourites for the final against Japan.
We knew it would be a difficult match. The stadium was full, and honestly, it was really hard. Because whatever you say, Japan is still a strong team. And the proof is that we could only win 1-0, with a goal from the head of Patrick Vieira. So it wasn't easy at all.
France had emulated Brazil's achievement in 1997 and completed a clean sweep of the world, continental and intercontinental titles.
In 2003 in France.
France again.
There was additional pressure on us because it was in front of our own fans. It wasn't easy because we'd made such a mess of the 2002 World Cup when we didn't win a game. I don't think we even scored a goal. So in a sense we had to make good on what we'd not done the year before.
We had to get back on track after what happened in 2002. And we were a complete team in every area, really. At the back, we were very strong, with a great goalkeeper. And then up front, we had real penetration and could score in any match. We were really very strong, very strong.
France were back to their best, topping their group ahead of Colombia.
The goal is fantastic from Julie, but Max has played a significant part.
Cameroon were the surprise of the tournament. Samuel Eto'o fired them to a shock defeat of Brazil and a place in the semis.
It's a victory we will never forget. We were a family. We wanted to stick together, to win together. We knew we didn't have great individual assets, no players who were then particularly well known on the world stage. But we knew that if we stuck together and worked hard, we could beat just about anybody.
Cameroon started their semi-final against Colombia in Lyon superbly. Pius and Diefy scoring in the 9th minute. It proved to be the winning goal. As usual, Marc-Vivien Foé was driving Cameroon's midfield, but just after half-time, he collapsed in the middle of the pitch.
When he fell over in the centre circle, we didn't realise that it was something that important. We carried on playing. We thought it was some sort of fatigue that caused his collapse, that he would come back later and be okay.
He was a friend to everyone because he played in France and in England, and he was just a fantastic guy. So it hurt us all.
The second semi-final at the Stade de France later that evening was completely overshadowed by the news that Marc-Vivien had died in the Stadium Medical Centre in Lyon. It was later established that a hereditary heart condition made him susceptible to sudden death during physical exercise.
We had to be there for our teammates. Honestly, it was very painful and difficult, especially for Grégory Coupé, because he knew Marc-Vivien so well from playing together at Lyon.
The French team were clearly struggling with their emotions. They would go on to win their semi-final against Turkey 3-2.
Thierry Henry scored the opening goal, and all the players had already agreed that whoever scored would pay some sort of tribute to Marc-Vivien. So when Thierry scored, he immediately thought of Marc-Vivien. And we all came together with him and did the same thing. It was very short, but it was a moment of dedication to Marc-Vivien Foé.
So the final was France against Cameroon, but there were widespread doubts as to whether or not it should go ahead.
I was there with the team in Lyon. I met with the team, and the team was very, very strong. And they said, for the memory of Marc-Vivien, we want to do it, we want to play, we want to win. They said, we want to do it.
The life of another human being is more important than anything else. And once we'd lost him, we were completely without any strength to carry on. But as we thought about it, about what a competitor he was, about the desire he always had to win, we decided that we should play the final for him, as a memorial to him, and only for him.
Both teams paid tribute to Marc-Vivien before kickoff.
It shows how Marc-Vivien always brought people together. He was a great friend and our brother.
The two teams were united, first of all for Marc-Vivien, and secondly for sport in general. Unfortunately, life does go on, and we had to play the match. The Cameroon players wanted to play, to pay tribute to him.
Understandably, it was a low-key final. Neither side scored in normal time. Thierry Henry guiding a winning golden goal past Kameni.
Henry's got in, he's got all the way, and France are going to win the Confederations Cup. They have retained it.
He's in the penalty area, the ball comes to him, and Thierry shoots across the goalkeeper. I tried to get there to make sure, but it goes in anyway, and Thierry wheels off to celebrate, and we all mob him. A really good moment. Then, at the end, we did a tour of the stadium together, with the photo of Marc Vivien. It's very moving, full of emotion still. It was something we felt was right. We all went round the stadium, all mixed up together. It was a good moment. A good moment.
In 2005 in Germany.
Brazil triumph.
Germany hosted the tournament a year before the 2006 FIFA World Cup. It was a spectacular competition with some memorable matches, right from the opening day when Michael Ballack led the home team against Australia.
The spectators were right behind us. They really embraced that tournament. The matches were always sold out. It had real significance, and as a player you noticed that and are much more motivated.
For me, it was a very special moment in the first place because it was my first time I actually had a chance to play against Germany, you know, a country of my heritage, and it was a very special moment to play in Frankfurt. You know, it was a fantastic stadium.
Germany resisted the sort of upset Australia had earned a reputation for, the home side taking a 4-3 victory. Ballack's team topped their group ahead of fellow semi-finalists Argentina after an entertaining 2-2 draw between the two sides. Brazil had learnt their lesson and brought a strong squad to Germany, with Ronaldinho back in the team and the likes of Adriano, Kaká and Robinho also in impressive form.
Just joy. I had so much joy, because we also had a very strong squad. There was an excellent atmosphere off the pitch. We were real friends. Brazilians do have this characteristic of being a group of friends, being easygoing, living happily together. And on the pitch, the team was exceptional.
But the Brazilians didn't have it all their own way. In their group match against Mexico, Jared Borghetti scored the only goal as the Mexicans also qualified for the semis. They would face Argentina while Brazil took on the hosts in a classic.
It was a match of the highest standard. Adriano was at his very best then. He was established in the national team and in peak condition. He scored a lot of goals with his left foot. He was hard to control. And obviously there was also Ronaldinho. Two world-class players in their attack.
As the saying goes, it was the creme de la creme. Everyone involved was playing for the biggest clubs in the world at the time. And the technical standard was impressive. All errors were punished, so you always had to have a sharp mind to make as few mistakes as possible to get the victory.
Adriano proved the difference. After Germany twice pegged back Brazil, his second goal secured a 3-2 victory.
Brazil are in front for a third time. It's time for the samba.
In the other semi-final between Mexico and Argentina, there were no goals until extra time. And then the match came to life.
He's still going. Took a deflection. It's there!
With golden goals no longer used in FIFA competitions, Argentina applied in the second period of extra time.
Figueroa, it's over the line, and Argentina are level.
So it went to penalties, and Argentina emerged triumphant. Germany and Mexico would contest the third-place playoff, and for the hosts, it was important to finish well.
It's not always easy to motivate yourself if you're just playing for third place. But we had a duty. We were hosts, and we wanted to finish third at least. I'm sure that was important for 2006 as well, to get spectators on board, to give them a sense of what they could experience during a World Cup. So it was great.
Ronaldinho was just a teenager in Mexico in 1999. Now the elder statesman, he led Brazil by example in the final.
Everyone talked a lot before the match, and as a captain, I have always liked to tell people that you must play with a sense of joy. So I said, whatever we had to suffer had already passed, and that we should enjoy ourselves in the final, because we had reached the moment we'd been waiting for.
Adriano, oh, brilliant! His fourth goal of the Confederations Cup. It was simply unstoppable.
Adriano was going through an exceptional phase. Kaká was playing well, Ronaldinho even more so. The team was very strong all round, but I was still surprised by just how well we played.
It's 2-0! Brazil are over the hill and far away after 15 minutes.
We felt great happiness because we managed to do what we wanted. The team was very focused. Everyone was playing football that was joyful, happy and attacking.
Adriano scored a second goal as it finished 4-1. Brazil were champions for a second time after one of the most impressive performances ever seen in a major final.
(2009) South Africa.
Brazil once more.
The tournament had now settled into a 4-year cycle, taking place 12 months ahead of the FIFA World Cup. Before the 2009 edition in South Africa, the football world was more than a little nervous.
There was a lot of doubts and people saying, even inside our executive committee, it will not be easy, it is perhaps was not the best decision. But the question was, finally, it was a question of trust and confidence. Trust people and they get confidence and they organize this competition.
Were they going to be ready and what was going to be like and all the rest of it. And we had such a phenomenal time in every single way, at the stadiums, in the travel. Everything we did at the tournament just worked out so well for us, and it was a really enjoyable experience.
On the pitch, the USA began their group with comprehensive defeats against Brazil, and then Italy, for whom Giuseppe Rossi scored twice. It seemed that the Americans would be heading home early. But Egypt then upset the Italians 1-0 to throw their group wide open.
Played some really, really difficult teams and kind of got our butts handed to us, you know. And then obviously, because of the way the tournament worked, the two powerhouses had to go head-to-head in the last game, and Brazil had to play Italy, and all sorts of crazy nonsense happened in that game with the score. We needed to get the win against Egypt.
With Brazil beating Italy 3-0 to top the group, victory by the same margin against Egypt meant that the Americans were also through to the semis. There they would face the best team in the world. Spain had cruised through their group. Fernando Torres picked up an 11-minute hat-trick in their opener against New Zealand. And the European champions won 3 out of 3 without conceding a goal.
The cross is good, Torres is there, he's got the hat-trick!
Unsurprisingly, Spain were overwhelming favourites to beat the USA in their semi-final.
At that time, Spain was on a hot streak, and they hadn't been beaten in I don't know how many games. And we approached that game with the mentality that, you know, we have nothing to lose. We're definitely the underdogs in this game, and we have everything to gain by leaving it out all out in the field.
Probably the best football moment of my life, you know. On the cusp of getting to a major final, playing Spain, obviously how daunting that is, and #1 in the world, not having lost in ages, and not as a team playing particularly well in the tournament, you're thinking to yourself, you know what happens here. And just somehow, we caught lightning in a bottle that night.
It's Altidore now, who's shaken his defender well, and Altidore scored! Would you believe it? The United States have taken the lead.
With Spain's attack misfiring and Howard unbeatable in goal, the USA held on to their lead and Clint Dempsey sealed a remarkable victory.
My favorite memory of that match was when the referee blew the whistle to end the game. We were just dead tired from playing and from defending and, you know, resisting the Spanish attack over and over and over again.
So after losing their first 2 matches of the tournament, the USA were in the final. Which team they'd faced there was yet to be decided. Like the Americans, South Africa had begun their group slowly. They required victory over New Zealand if they were to make the semi-finals.
I remember the coach before the game, Mr. Sultana. He wasn't speaking so good English, so he came into the dressing room and he said to us, if you guys don't win this game today, I'm gonna pack my bags and go back to Brazil. So he made us relax before the game, and we went out and we played really well, and we had a good tournament after that.
The hosts had already ensured that 2009 was a massive success by reaching a semi-final where they would face Brazil, and by giving the world a taste of South Africa.
When South Africans are happy, they always sing. When they're sad, they always sing. So that's it's part of our culture, and I think it was really a good message to the world to show that the love and the passion that we have for the sport.
They didn't take one backward step in the match. At the same time, we knew how to wait for the right moment to win the game. Because sometimes it's the detail that means you end up winning a match as difficult as that one.
Dani Alves shot very well and managed to score the winning goal for us. But South Africa still played as equals against Brazil. I think the motivation they had, the determination, their willpower, it transcended technique and tactics.
South Africa also played as equals against Spain in the 3rd place playoff.
It requires something very, very spectacular. Like that! Just like that!
That strike forced extra time, but proved to be a spectacular sign-off by the hosts as Spain took a 3-2 victory thanks to Xabi Alonso. Still, South Africa had made a lasting impression. In the final at Ellis Park, Brazil and the USA put on one of the greatest matches in the history of the tournament.
States to apply some pressure here, and it has gone in! Clint Dempsey turns it home!
Yeah, you're sitting there trying to pinch yourself, thinking, what's going on here? Yeah, okay, the Spain result was one thing, but to go into the Brazil game and be up 2-0, you're half thinking to yourself, when is this volcano going to erupt? You know, like, can we keep them at bay?
It was a difficult game, really complicated. We didn't expect to end the first half 2-0 down, but we did know our potential. We knew that if we managed to play well, we would be able to score and then get a win.
Luis Fabiano! What a response! Barely 40 seconds of the second half played. Brazil mean business.
We did just what we needed to do in the second half. But the USA were hard work. They gave us a real fright.
Showing that little burst of pace across the face of goal. It's hit the bar and headed in by Luis Fabiano. And Brazil have their equaliser.
6 minutes from time, Brazil's comeback was complete, thanks to their captain.
Something exploded inside me. Just joy, elation. I ran to the corner flag to hug Elano and our teammates as well, the replacements on the bench and the technical staff. It was a magical moment in the national team for me, and a special moment for us all. It was unforgettable.
It's hard when you're in the moment to accept all that. I would imagine that everyone who was a fan of football enjoyed, kind of the spectacle of what the final turned out to be. Their heroic comeback. It's magical in a lot of ways.
Brazil will be determined to follow South Africa in proving that they are ready to host the FIFA World Cup when this year's tournament kicks off. And they will be equally determined to win a fourth FIFA Confederations Cup, because a tournament that began with just 4 teams in Riyadh has come of age.
It's a title, and there's no doubt it will mark the career of anyone who wins it.
Winning it is Mexico's greatest ever achievement.
It's the biggest tournament before a World Cup.
It was absolutely fantastic to be part of this tournament, being among the best teams in the world.
It's a competition that counts today. If you've won it, that's a trophy and an honour to your name.